Welcome in, everybody. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Jeff Howe for Talkin' Ball tonight. Jeff, double hook 'em there, bud. This episode of Talkin' Ball brought to you by our friend Dr. Brett Robin at the Austin Orthopedic Institute, accepting new patients now. We'll talk a little bit more about Dr. Robin, the former Longhorn football player, later in the show. Welcome in, Jeff Howe. You're sitting in for Jerry Hamilton, who is still driving back from Florida after his sojourn there to see Derek Cooper yesterday. Jeff, I haven't talked to you on a live stream since then. What was your takeaway from the Longhorns grabbing the running back out of South Florida?
Did Jerry find any more Kirby's cupcakes to eat, or was it just the one? No,
I think that Sark ate more than one. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, I texted you guys a picture earlier from coaching school. That face Sark had was like he knew he had eaten one too many cupcakes, and he probably needed to get after it in the facility today. But anyway, no, look, Texas has been on a roll lately. We talked about it for a while, Bobby. Running back was really one spot where they needed a guy. They just couldn't get a back. They needed a Xavier Crowell, Derek Cooper. Like, they needed to hit a home run. And it kind of reminds you back to the 2020 cycle where after they'd gotten Keontae Ingram and they were in the process of converting Roschon Johnson, but you knew that 2020 cycle between Bijan or Zach Evans, like they needed to hit a home run, and they did. Yep. And they did this time. And I'll tell you this, after I sat in on Chad Scott's lecture that they do for the Texas high school coaches, where he's just talking about playing running back. And look, it's breaking down running back drills. It's hard to translate some of that into any of the platforms that we have. But what I like about it is it's really hard for anybody to replicate the delivery and the presence that Tashard Choice has. Like, Tashard Choice commands a room. Last year at coaching school, the Texas staff did a big chalk talk after the coaches panel, and in a room with some really big personalities, I mean, everybody just flocked to Tashard Choice. So you can't expect Chad Scott to be that guy. But in terms of teaching the position, Bobby, I feel like Texas is in really good hands. And Derek Cooper fits the kind of back Chad Scott is looking for. Like, is he really talented? Absolutely. But I think when you look at his ability to be violent towards the line of scrimmage, to be a one cut and go kind of guy, a vertical north-south runner, that's what Chad Scott wants in his backs. That's the kind of back Derek Cooper is. And I think that's what Texas is going to get in Derek Cooper. So this marriage between Chad Scott and Derek Cooper, hopefully it ends up being like the one we saw between Bijan Robinson and Stan Drayton, or Tashard Choice and Jonathan Brooks, where you've got a really good running backs coach coaching a really legit blue chip runner.
Yeah, I think he's very talented. I was watching a number of the other top running backs in the country earlier today. Actually, had some free time to myself, so I kind of went down the list of everybody's top 15, top 20 running backs. I thought that Derek Cooper is most likely the best power back in the country. Mm-hmm. I think I think there are really some really good backs. I think Xavier Crowell is terrific. KJ Edwards, young man that's committed to A&M, is terrific. Javian Osborne, really, really good as well. The Savion Hyder out of Virginia, really, really good. But I just think that Cooper, I'm telling you, I think he fits the inside zone really, really well because he's so big and I think he's only going to get bigger, and he's going to still have that speed that he can pop a big one if he needs to. But that was a big one for Texas. 21 commitments now for the Longhorns. We are also 9 days away, Jeff, from fall camp. Steve Sarkisian and the group get going on July 30th. A little bit on that, Jeff, you were down at coaching school, high school coaching school that all the coaches from around the state go to. Yesterday in San Antonio, you're going back tomorrow for the keynote speech from Steve Sarkisian that begins at 9:30 in the morning. But my question for you is something that you brought up actually at the press conference yesterday. You asked Sark about how he's contemplating really getting after and looking into competing against Ohio State, and how he's planning on preparing this year for Ohio State. It was an interesting answer. Give people your take on what exactly Sark said.
Yeah, I've known what Sark's approach has been, And he actually went on the record with it, which I was a little surprised he went in as in-depth as he did. But basically how they've run camp the last few years is they'll go about the first 2.5 weeks and just have a full-on just training camp where it's, iron sharpens iron, inter-squad scrimmage, all that fun stuff, really trying to set your depth chart to get ready to go play a game. That third week basically is putting in the game plan for whoever that first big non-conference opponent is, by kind of introducing, last year was Michigan, Alabama the 2 years before that. So you'll introduce the opponent, get ready, spend about a week on them. And then, about a week to 10 days out from the opener, now you're going to start getting ready for your first opponent. The difference this time is your first opponent right out of the gate is Ohio State. And Sark said, the exact quote from him, Bobby, it's probably the most daunting opening game he's had in his career as a college football coach. The only thing he compared it to was, and I had to really think back to this, but the 2003 season when he was the quarterbacks coach at SC opened the season. They were ranked 8th to start the year in the AP poll. They opened the season at Auburn. Auburn got one first place vote in the preseason poll. They were picked 6th in the country. Tommy Tuberville was supposed to have a really good team. They go down there and shut out Auburn 23-0. It was Matt Leinert's first start, Reggie Bush's USC debut. It was a really inexperienced USC team, but a really talented USC team. Kind of some similarities you can draw with Texas right now. But Sark said those are the kinds of experiences he's got to draw on right now to get ready for it. So basically what they're going to do is it's going to be the same structure. Just when they get through pretty much that first or second big camp scrimmage, after that, it's going to be all about Ohio State. And I do wonder, Bobby, there's some coach will tell you don't want to play that game too early, but I think this is Sark leaving no stone unturned. And the good thing why I feel comfortable about Texas spending so much time on Ohio State, we've seen Sark in these non-conference games. The first half of the Michigan game, those opening drives, the Alabama game until Quinn got hurt, the entire game in Tuscaloosa. Those are probably the best games Sark has called since he's been at Texas. Probably the best games he's managed since he's been at Texas. He's been at his best in these early season, big blockbuster games. So the fact that basically once they get through that 2.5 weeks of like legit training camp, it's all going to be Ohio State. There is no need to get ready for a Colorado State or a Rice or whoever. So once they get through that point in camp, it's going to be all about the Buckeyes. And I can't wait to see, Bobby, what Sark's going to have.
Yeah, I was a little surprised as well about him giving away the goods on that, but I thought it was also informational and good to understand exactly how he's going to do it. All right, before we get going, every Monday night we take your questions. That'll include tonight, so get those in the queue. Matt, our producer, will line them up for us, and we'll try to get through each and every one as quickly as we can. If we don't get to yours, we're sorry, but we will try to get to as many as possible. Before we do that, I want to say thank you to our sponsor of Monday Night's Talkin' Ball. Special thanks to Dr. Brett Robin at Austin Orthopedic Institute for sponsoring On Texas Football. Dr. Robin, the former Longhorn running back, knows what it takes to stay in the game, and he's here for athletes of all ages. Specializing in musculoskeletal health, Dr. Robin treats joint pain and injuries with a conservative approach first, but also offers advanced surgical options if you need them, including arthroscopic procedures, fracture management, and even total joint replacements. With convenient offices across Central Texas and Austin, Georgetown, and Killeen, Dr. Robin is accepting new patients now. If you're looking for a top-notch orthopedic, give Dr. Robin a call, 512-856-1000. That's 512-856-1000. Appreciate you, Dr. Robin. And I know I'll see you at DKR at some point this season. All right, let's go ahead and get into the questions, Jeff, if you don't mind. Let's start with E. Kim. Bobby, which coaches are on the hot seat starting week 1? And who may Texas benefit from that? My guess is Henderson. So he's mentioning Trenton Henderson, I guess out of Pensacola Catholic, thinking that Brian, who's committed to LSU, thinking Brian Kelly might be on the hot seat. Jeff, I saw this was our first question, so I kind of doodled on the side here prior to it. Here are the ones that I think could be reasonably hot given certain things happening. Okay, now, unlikely all of these are, but I bet one or maybe two of them do get hot during the season. USC. Okay. Lincoln Riley can't win 8 games this year. I just, that's not what they're paying him, $100 million for. Michigan, second year under Sharon Moore. Got to improve. They looked so lethargic on offense last year. It was bad. They can't do that 2 years in a row while he's serving a suspension from the NCAA. Florida, Billy Napier appears to have turned the corner, but if he reverts somehow, he's definitely in that category. LSU, again, Brian Kelly has to win some games this year. And then Oklahoma. I think Brent Venables clearly in that he should be able to get out of it this year, I think, but we'll see. He's got a good defense, and we'll see if he can put enough points on the board. And then you have other schools that may or may not have recruits that Texas might want to poach from. I think Mark Stoops, given his dalliance with A&M, might be on a little bit of a hot seat at Kentucky.
Yeah.
Like smaller team like UVA, University of Virginia, might be on the hot seat. We'd have to see. But, Jeff, your thoughts on any other teams that you want to add to that group that you think could be if Dave Aranda doesn't get Baylor completely turned around and they somehow revert, is Baylor in that category? What do you think?
Aranda's interesting. He even mentioned it last night during the Division I coaches panel, going back to a couple years ago when they were 3-9. Like he can't go 3-9 again. He said it. We can't go 3-9 again. We can't go 3-9 again. I'm like, man, Dave Aranda kind of sounds like a guy's coaching for his job in 2025, even though I don't know that he necessarily is, but they do need to show some upward trajectory. I don't know if it helps Texas much on the recruiting trail, Bobby, but Sam Pittman at Arkansas is another one that
that's
can't afford another 6 wins. Definitely, if Arkansas is not bowl eligible, if they're out of it by a certain point, you got to wonder, do they pull the trigger? And hey, my scenario from last year, Bobby, is alive and well. Could we get to this time Texas and Arkansas in November in Austin, and it's interim head coach Bobby Petrino leading Arkansas into a game with Texas? It's plausible, just given the road Arkansas has. Florida and LSU are both interesting. LSU because of the opener against Clemson, and Brian Kelly's even started to joke publicly, like, yeah, he hasn't been good an opener since he's been at LSU. And I'm not going to call Florida a house of cards, but their margin for error to me seems so small because it all hinges on DJ Lagway's health. If DJ Lagway's healthy and he's good for 12 games, they could be a 10-win team even against that schedule. I think DJ Lagway's that good, and I think other than Texas, I think Florida's probably in the top quarter of line of scrimmage teams in the conference. And if you're that in the SEC, you got a chance. And I like Jaden Ball, running back. I think they got a pretty good team if Lagway can stay healthy. But if he's not healthy, I think they're going to be pretty much what they were last year without him, which is kind of a 500 team struggling to get bowl eligible, and that's not going to be good for Billy Napier at all. Plus, before they play Texas, he's got those 2 games where they got LSU and Miami back-to-back, and then they've got a bye, and then they host Texas. So those are the 2, though. It's Florida and it's LSU. And Florida, I think if both of them end up in trouble, then I think that probably doubly helps you with Trenton Henderson because he's committed to LSU, but Florida would still be your main competition. Anytime you're dealing with kids from Pensacola, Florida's always got to be considered a threat. So if you can get those 2 schools out of the way and he's still listening at that point, then maybe you can go all in. Because I'd still like to see them, Bobby, get another edge rusher to pair Richard Wesley in this class. Those are the 2, though, for me. Kentucky doesn't do a whole lot for you. I don't think Arkansas does. The OU Michigan thing is interesting just because they play each other.
Man,
they
play each other out of the gate.
Yeah. If Oklahoma loses that game, Bobby, I mean, especially if they look lethargic on offense doing it, man, the fire under BV is going to get cranked up something fierce.
That game may end up being 10-9.
It wouldn't shock me if it is.
I'm serious now. I mean, unless Ben Arbuckle is just really some master of the universe as an offensive coordinator, OU and Michigan, neither team was effective moving the ball last year. Period. No. So we'll see how that goes. Thanks for the question, Ekim. Hope we answered that well enough. I like the Arkansas call. By the way, I would not predict Dave Aranda is coaching his last game this year for Baylor because I think they got a good team up in Waco this year in the Big 12. All right, King Kunta, is Texas staying in touch with some USC and A&M commits that they recruited this year as flip targets after they each go 7-5? Well, if that happens at USC, there's going to be some things that shake loose for sure, including Lincoln Riley. If Mike Elko goes 7-5 this year, when he's talking about having 10 plus NFL draft picks, then I think that the die might be cast in College Station. Jeff, your thoughts on this? There are players that Texas is recruiting. I'll just give you. Jamion Winfield, Texas continues to try to recruit. Young man out of Richardson, Texas. Texas continues to recruit a couple of the A&M commitments as well. But obviously, you got to wait and see. James Johnson was an irregular decommitment. You usually go a little bit longer than he did to flip. So what do you think on this? We know they're keeping in touch with some, but do you think either of those teams go 7-5 realistically? That would be hard for me to believe.
Yeah, I think they're both better than 7-5. The thing is, I've always said, Bobby, and look, we got plenty of it with Mac at the end and a little bit with Tom Herman. Man, 8-4 is the ultimate gray area. Who are those 4 losses to, and what do they look like? 7-5 if you're SC is not a good year. 7-5 at A&M is not a good year. 9-3. Now you can look at that positively, like you've got some momentum. But 8-4 is the ultimate gray area. I don't, depending on what those 4 would look like hypothetically, I don't know that Lincoln Riley it would be okay. I would think if A&M goes out 8-4, unless those are just like they're getting dog walked. I don't know that that's a problem for Mike Elko, Bobby. But like you said, if they really do have closing in on double-digit draft picks, then that we all know how patient the Aggies can be when it comes to a football coach getting it going in the right direction. So yeah, that's not going to be a recipe for good. I think they're both better than 7-5. If either of them go 7-5, then yeah, I think the heat should rightfully get turned up on both. And for Lincoln Riley, that may be it at that point.
It should be. If he goes 75 this year with as much as they spent on that roster, yeah.
One thing on A&M real quick though, Bobby. I guess how you feel about the Aggies depends on how you feel about Marcel Reed. And I don't know that I'm a believer in Marcel Reed. I think A&M's got a better roster than Florida, but I can say the same thing in terms of quarterback. If Marcel Reed really takes a step, then they could end up winning 9-10 games. If not, they'll probably be, 8 wins after bowl season.
Texas 8-4, not Texas A&M. All right, this one for Burnt Orange Horn. So Oregon just lost their wide receiver coach. Does Lott still stick? Are we sure of this? I'll have to put that out there. Ross Douglas was the receivers coach that recruited Jalen Lott. Junior Adams had been the coach until February. But is that a recent move? Is it more recent than I'm aware of? I don't know. I know that Rashad Samples recruits the Metroplex quite heavily for Oregon. Dan Lanning recruits a lot of guys individually as well. But I will say this, Jalen Lott had a higher NIL offer from Oregon than anyone else. And I think that was a primary reason for that, along with the fact that Will Stein's still there as well as the offensive coordinator. And so he's run through some guys. Am I wrong? Can anybody look that up and see if Ross Douglas is still the wide receiver coach? Because I think that move happened right after the second signing day.
In February, yep.
I may be wrong, and he may have more recent information for me. David Parcell, let's get you this one here, Jeff. Who gets number 0 when Ant Hill leaves for the NFL after this season?
Colin Simmons would be the obvious answer, but one looks so good on him. That's a really good. You know what? If Jelani McDonald comes back, has the kind of year we were going to have, and he comes back, give him 0.
Wouldn't he want 7 though? Maybe
he might, but I don't know. I think 7. You got to go through. Michael Huff is judge, jury, and executioner on who gets to wear 7. I think 0 might be one of those that you could probably be easier to grab a hold to. But yeah, I think Jelani McDonald, Bobby, wearing 0. I'm trying to think if there'd be, any of those guys in that edge room. You know what though? Honestly, I'd love this. there's something about defensive linemen wearing single digit numbers that I just dig. Like if Justice Terry showed up wearing 0, that I could get behind
that. Somebody says, I want nose tackles to wear 0.
Yeah.
That would be a wide 0. It'd almost be an O. All right.
Jonah Williams wearing 0 too could be one. I just think that should be awarded to, hey, who's our stud on defense?
Yeah, you got to be a dude to wear 0 or 1. Just don't give it to anyone. Yeah, I agree. Sailor Joe. All right, who are we still targeting? Let me try to give you some names. Wide receiver, we mentioned Texas still interested in Jalen Lott. I think that they could circle back to a couple guys that committed elsewhere. Jabari Mack at LSU might be one. He's out of South Louisiana. There are a number of different wide receivers that could be in the game if Texas were to go that route. I'm not certain that they will at this point because I think Jermaine Bishop might be considered a wide receiver for them at this point, and they already have Cohen Brown and Chris Stewart. At tight end, let's see if somebody shakes loose later. I don't know that there's anybody they have in mind immediately. And so I think they may be waiting. And if they have to, they'll pick someone up in the portal as an inline blocker, depending on what Jack Indries maybe does as well. Offensive line, they definitely want one more, and they want an offensive tackle. Period. Full stop. They want a offensive tackle out of that group. Malachi Lee out of Hawaii is a key person. He's committed to Michigan, but Texas is not going to stop recruiting him. There's also some in-state guys that Texas could go back in on, some out-of-state guys. We'll see exactly what the Longhorns decide to do. That's the offensive side of the ball. On the defense, they want one more defensive tackle. They want one more defensive end. They're going to continue to recruit guys like Kendall Graville as well as Trenton Henderson. They could Jamian Winfield, I've mentioned him as well. At linebacker, they're going to stay on Braden Rouse, is my understanding, out of Marietta Kell, who just committed to Tennessee. But who else might they look at? Thiessen Iwako might be one to see what he does his senior year up out of Georgetown. He's committed to Texas Tech. In the secondary, all eyes right now on Devon Benjamin, a young man out of Southern California who visited Texas last month, and he will make a decision early in August between Texas, Oregon, and Michigan. I think Oregon is considered the leader at this point, but I would not count out the Longhorns at all in that category. Anybody else you want to add to that, Jeff, that you're aware of?
Two thoughts from me on that, Bobby. One, I think on the outside with wide receiver and even corner, if you wanted to add another corner, those are positions typically where you can find guys are more readily available in the portal. So you don't need to reach for a high school guy if you want to wait till that portal window opens and maybe go find you something. Like you said, Jermaine Bishop being a wild card, we'll see where he ends up. I think the off-ball linebacker edge discussion is interesting because let's say it's Braden Rouse, hypothetically, right? If you get Braden Rouse and you don't flip a Trenton Henderson, well, maybe you consider Kosi Okpala as kind of an either or at that point. You're not necessarily pigeonholing him into being an off-ball linebacker, or maybe you can cross-train him a little bit. Maybe I'd like to think that what they're doing right now with Trey Moore, that for guys like Smith the Robo, Kosi Okpala, guys like that's going to be they want one of those guys in the future that, hey, we just want you to be able to manufacture depth with that guy, right? We could use a body at edge, an off-ball linebacker, whatever. It's a way to get your best 11 on the field. So I do think they've got a little bit of flexibility with Kosi Okpala if it ends up being a linebacker that they land instead of another true edge.
Yep. All right. Let's go to the next one here. Texas. Doug Haywood wants to know, do we have any 2027 football commits? And the answer is yes. The Longhorns do have a 2027 commitment. His name is Taven Epps. He's out of Tustin, California. He's a linebacker, tight end, 6'4", 235. He has some Texas ties in his background, but he is a highly ranked player, 6'4", 235, again, out of Tustin, California, down there. Kind of in between San Diego and L.A. and Orange County and all that area. but that is the one they have committed for right now. Doug, hope that helps for you. All right, Scott Sturgeon has a question here. How are we looking for Devon Benjamin? Scott, we just mentioned that. Frankly, somebody, Hayes Fawcett, the graphic guy, just put out something on Devon Benjamin not 30 minutes ago, I don't think. Let me look it up to just make sure I've got it right. I know the three teams that I've mentioned before were in there, and they still are. Texas, Oregon, and Michigan. Also added to that mix are North Carolina and Washington for his final five. So I think it's going to be Texas, Oregon, or Michigan. That's what I've been told to look for. All right.
Yeah. Going back to Bobby, real quick, going back to 2027 recruits, Kennedy Brown, the offensive lineman at Kingwood. These aren't committed guys, prospects. Widely considered the number one prospect in the state. And then a guy who, man, I've already got a man crush. John Meredith III, the defensive back out of Euless Trinity, is a stud in the 27 class.
Yeah, Jerry's talking about a couple other offensive linemen too. I think one at South Oak Cliff that is really good. And I can't remember the other one's from, but he says it's going to be a really good year for in-state offensive linemen next year. All right, we've got one here, Marcus 29. Do you guys think the RB room has the physicality and durability to anchor the offense if Arch is inconsistent in SEC play, especially if Baxter isn't a true 100% until the end of the season? Man, this is a great question, Marcos.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's really fair. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. I mean, yes, they do have the physicality and durability because Trey Wisner showed he could do it last year. Look, I mean, I just think no matter what you think about Trey Wisner, like as an NFL prospect, or, you know, if he can replicate this year what he did last year, and yes, it was in a 16-game season, even though he didn't play all 16, and there were games like against Florida where he only got a handful of snaps because he was recovering from an injury. You grind out 1,000 yards against that schedule and the opponents he did, man, that says a lot. You got a proven commodity at running back. And I think between Wisner, we'll see what happens with Jarrett Gibson if he takes a step or not. I think James Simon, the more I hear about James Simon, I think he's got a chance to really make a dent in the rotation. And with CJ Baxter, Bobby, you know, Sark said in Atlanta, look, they're going to be extra careful with him, you know, because it is a serious knee injury. It was multiple ligaments. I think that's what people are forgetting. It's not just like an ACL tear, like it's multiple ligaments that he damaged. And not only the physical part of it, I think there's the mental part of it. So, Baxter, I think, is going to be 100%. I don't foresee it being by the time you get to the Ohio State game, but I think overall the running back room itself does have the durability and physicality to anchor the offense. My question is, how quickly can this offensive line come together? And I love the potential of those three guys on the interior with Cole Hudson, DJ Campbell, and Neto. But again, that line last year, say what you want about it, they played a lot of football together, and this group hasn't. So how quickly does it take them to come together and be a group where you got some run game concepts you can hang your hat on?
I want to say this real quick. If Baxter was 100%, I think there's no doubt they would have the physicality and durability to anchor the offense. But I mean, what happened against A&M? Did Trey Wisner not anchor the offense against A&M late? He was the offense. That's what I'm saying. And so I'm thinking to myself twofold. One is, I think that you ask a great question, and a lot of it you have to look at Trey Wisner. Is he going to even be more physical this year and more durable? Has he put on more armor? Because I don't think you can rely on said Baxter. I mean, I would love to be able to say you can, but to Jeff's point, that's a monster injury he's coming back from. I mean, our sponsor of this show is Dr. Brett Robin, former running back at the University of Texas. We even had him on the show when Cedric had that injury, and he goes, look, this is a very difficult injury. It will be determined by how he's coming back, his prognosis, the success of the surgery. He goes, there are so many things that have to go right for him to get back to 100%. And so you have to take it that way. Now, we've heard that there's some good things happening behind the scenes, but I don't know that he's going to get to be 100% before the season starts for sure. If he can get to that as the season goes on, then that's terrific. My thought here is that Texas needs one of James Simon, Christian Clark, or Jarrett Gibson, okay, to take a step. Now, maybe James Simon is already, I mean, it's hard to say for him to take a step because he's a true freshman, but either Christian Clark needs to be ready to go to run inside zone, or Jarrett Gibson does, or James Simon. One of those three, because Trey Weiser's not an inside zone guy. He's an outside zone guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be, I think it's a fair question. They have a talented running back room, but Trey Weiser's the dude. Trey Weiser gets injured. You gotta wonder what happens here. So I don't know if they're going to have the quote durability. So
somebody asked in the chat, but I've seen it a couple times where they say, "Hey, Wisner was like listed at 202. He's 194 now. Does that make a difference?" I mean, no. I mean, I think he's just developing some muscle mass and reshaping his body. So I mean, if you look physically at Trey Wisner, like, by the way, during that Chad Scott lecture, I saw plenty of spring cut ups from Trey Wisner on that clinic tape, and I'm not worried about his size or what he weighs. Like, it's if you can make yards against that defense in a live contact situation, you can pretty much do it against any defense in the country. So from that standpoint, I'm not worried. But I'll say this about CJ Baxter, Bobby, going back to what Brett Robin talked about, and I think a lot of people said this. I compare it to a pitcher coming back from Tommy John surgery. And I talked to enough pitchers that have had TJ, and they said, really, you question yourself up until that first, whether live BP or whatever, where you've really got to just rear back and rip it and let it go. You don't know how it's going to react, how you're going to react, how it's going to go mentally until then. I think until CJ Baxter's in a live contact situation where he's got to make that first jump cut in an inside run drill, it's up for debate and open to interpretation when he's going to come back, what he's going to look like until that happens. And when that happens, we don't know.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Hopefully, fingers crossed, Texas enters regular season play with a healthy running back group, unlike what happened a year ago during fall camp. All right. Juan Garza. Hello, guys. Why is it hard for Texas to get a bona fide dog receiver? They get good receivers, but have a hard time getting the best in the nation. DK Moore, Tristan Keys. Well, I mean, I want to say this, first of all. There's only two teams that have gotten those guys. So I think that just because they've gotten the best running back in the country, or best quarterback, or the best defensive end, or the best offense, I mean, those are few and far between. I will say this. Ryan Wingo 2 years ago, I think was in the 90s, ranked in the 90s on the industry ranking or whatever they call it, either on 24/7 or on 3 at the time. And Ryan Wingo, I know for a fact, was rated much higher internally on Texas's board than he was on other people's or on these recruiting rankings. To them, Ryan Wingo was a dog. Now, he may not have been the overall best in the country. Jeremiah Smith was that last year, right? So I think they feel like they've recruited wide receiver actually pretty good. That they're not real concerned about that. They have leaned on the portal and frankly done really well in the portal in that category as well. So I'm not real concerned about that. This one from Jedi Master Bevo. Bobby, master of recruiting prognostication. What is commit number by kickoff in Columbus? I make very few prognostications, Jedi Master Bevo. And there's a reason I made the one I did. And I'm not going to have one for you by kickoff in Columbus quite yet. If I have one, I will let you know, though. Is that a deal? That makes sense?
I'll just say, I hope everybody was paying attention the last couple of weeks when Bobby's been saying, look, they'll be at 20 by the time you get to the opener. So
yeah.
Here they are.
We'll see where they go from here. It's going to be interesting because Devon Benjamin is clearly a priority for just about every major team in the country. Tremendous player out of California. They've been on him forever. Oregon has been the team that most people feel has been in the best shape for him. So we'll have to wait and see how it goes. But that would be the next one I think that could come off the board, unless there's a flip, or unless Texas decides to go back in on somebody that they had not gone back in on and really pushed for during that initial June-July timeframe. Justin Yarbrough, thanks, Justin, for the super chat. Will practice be open to the media when fall camp starts? And what are y'all most looking forward to watching? I'm ready for camp to start. Amen. I could not agree more with that last statement there. It feels like we've been forever getting going in this season, but there's been a lot for us to cover, obviously, with recruiting. But I would say this, Sark historically, Justin, now this is no promise. Historically, he's opened practice 3 times in the fall. A couple the first week and 1 the second week, and then it's over. Am I right, Jeff? That's historically what he's done. We don't know how much we will or won't get, but that's it. What are you most looking forward to watching, Jeff? Give you that.
Well, you know me, Bobby. I'm and anybody that knows me knows I'm a sicko for trench play. So anytime we've got open practice, I'll tell you guys that y'all go hang out with the skill guys, watch the pretty guys run around and throw the football, whatever. I'm gonna go up with Kyle Flood on the big field and watch the O-line work. So that's the group that I really want to see again, because it's those 3 guys on the interior. And I agree with. I'm glad Tony Hills has said it, because I've said it too. I think Texas is going to be more athletic at tackle this year than they were last year. Now, is that going to translate into this being a top 2 or 3 line in the SEC? Proof will be in the pudding. But then the pieces are there for this offensive line to be better than the overall product we saw last year. But that and $5 to get you a decent cup of coffee. Like, we'll see what happens. But I want to watch that O-line work. I want to see if Kyle Flood's changed anything, and kind of what he's doing in those early practices to kind of get this group on the same page.
This one from Nicholas Tamsma. Thank you for the super chat, Nicholas. Has Texas continued to develop the Polynesian connection in and out of Hawaii? Impact so far on the roster? Well, they have a starter at middle linebacker. His name's Leonga Lafau, and Steve Sarkisian, any chance he gets to go in front of the microphone, talks about him because he likes him that much. I would add this. A lot of people don't realize this, but Texas has 2 assistant coaches on their roster that have major Hawaiian backgrounds. Dwayne Akina obviously grew up on the island or in the islands and goes back there every year. And Johnny Nansen has a lot of Hawaiian Pacific Islander ties as well. So, Nicholas, they're recruiting it. They're recruiting Malachi Lee. They're recruiting other players there in future years as well. But I mean, right now, I got to be honest. I mean, Texas in a situation where they're recruiting across the country, not just Hawaii. So it's hard to just say they're only recruiting this. I mean, we talked about it this morning, Jeff. Texas has a commitment from every state on I-10 going east. Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida. Every single one. Yeah. So it's very spread out to quote unquote focus on Hawaii. Although I think that they would love to continue that trend, especially for players they think are special. They thought Leonga Lafau was. I think they think Malachi Lee is.
This has been a hot topic. It was a hot topic, and CJ Vogel was down there today at coaching school, but it was a hot topic on Sunday when I was there, and it's been a hot topic. And, hey, look, with all due respect to the other coaches in the state, the head coaches at Texas and Texas A&M are going to feel it more than any, and even there's some separation there because you're the head coach of Texas. You're going to feel like if you don't have a requisite number of players from the state of Texas, you're going to get some questions like, hey, are you taking care of business in your backyard? How much do you value your backyard? And I think Sark, Bobby, has handled that about as well as you can. I don't know. I can say it's impossible to do what Mac Brown did and win a national championship with 96% of your roster from the state of Texas. But I just think in this day and age, it's very hard to do because take areas like Greater Houston. It's such a battleground with not just the SEC, but you got Michigan and other schools from the Big Ten coming in. USC recruits in Texas. So I just think I think it's unrealistic to expect Sark or anybody to do what Mac Brown did 20 years ago and just be able to cherry pick the top recruits in the state of Texas. I mean, at this point, for me anyway, and this is somebody that I love Texas high school football. I love the high school coaches in the state. I wish Texas had of an 85 scholarship roster. I wish all 85 of them were from Texas and they all were all NFL caliber. But that's not realistic. As long as they're identifying, recruiting, and developing NFL caliber players that can help them win a national championship, I don't care where they're from. And they're maximizing their resources in talent-rich areas, whether it's Southern California, that I-10 corridor in the state of Georgia, South Florida. Go where the most talented players in the country are. And, you can't pigeonhole yourself just trying to get the best from the state of Texas. I know I'm going a little off topic there, but I like the fact that this is a staff that's using their connections and using their resources all over the country to fill this roster with talent.
All right. Got time for a few more questions. Before we do that, I want to say special thanks one last time to Dr. Brett Robin, our sponsor for tonight's Talking Ball episode. Austin Orthopedic Institute. Dr. Robin, a former Longhorn running back, knows what it takes to stay in the game, and he's here for athletes of all ages, specializing in musculoskeletal health. Dr. Robin treats joint pain and injuries with a conservative approach first, but he also offers advanced surgical options, including arthroscopic procedures, fracture management, even total joint replacements, with convenient offices across Central Texas in Austin, Georgetown, and Killeen. Dr. Robin is accepting new patients now. If you're looking for a top-notch orthopedic, give Dr. Robin a call, 512-856-1000. That's 512-856-1000. Get back to your active lifestyle and doing what you love. Again, accepting new patients now, 512-856-1000. All right, we got a couple more questions we're going to get to. Let's start with this one. Todd Lacey says, raise your hand if you agree that Jeff Howe coming to OTF was a clutch move. I'll give that a hook 'em horns. I thought it was a clutch move myself. All right,
I'm happy with the move, so I'll say that. I'm happy.
What's that?
I'm happy with the move, so I'll say that.
There you go. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you. David Parcell, I'm hearing OU may have the best defensive line in the SEC. What are your thoughts? Jaden Jackson, R. Mason Thomas. What do you think?
Yeah, they're in the discussion. I would question anybody that says, it's a runaway that they do, because, Georgia still got dudes. Obviously you look at we had a question, it was in the chat about Murad Watson. I mean, the two guys I've heard the most about since that new group got to campus in early June, those guys from that second portal window. Been a lot of talk about Jack Andrews and a lot of talk about Murad Watson. I think they're expecting Murad Watson to be a starting caliber dude right out of the gate. I think Oklahoma, Bobby, like I said, Florida's another group that I put in there, maybe in the discussion. So I think there's probably 4 or 5 defensive. I mean, Dylan Stewart at South Carolina might be the best defensive lineman in the SEC, not named Colin Simmons. So there's 4, 5, 6 defensive lines that are in that discussion. Oklahoma's in there. I just wouldn't, without question, just stamp them number 1.
All right, Mama's Farmhouse Kitchen. I had to do that just because the username was so good. Who do y'all think will score the first TD for Texas this year and how? I think it will be a defensive sack fumble. Colin Simmons starts off the year with a TD. Where are you going? Arch in the red zone on a QB keep. Ryan Wingo deep. What do you got, Jeff Howe?
How about this? I'll go Jalen Gilbo pick 6 in the horseshoe to start it out.
Whoa. Julian saying going to be late on an out route. Is that what you're saying?
Or Taven St. Clair, whoever it is. Yes, Bobby, they will be late on that out. And I was there for Mark Orfe's lecture. And again, the point of those deals is to fire up the high school coaches and, kind of get, it's almost like a campaign speech, right? Just trying to get everybody, jazzed up about your program. But man, when he's talking about how they coach turning the ball over, how much they value turning the ball over, not just creating turnovers, but hey, we want you to turn it over and score. Like that's how you maximize turnovers. I think we might see a little bit different from the Texas secondary. And I think the money quote was Mark Orphe's talking about Dwayne Aquina, and he said, look, you can't be a soft ass and play for Coach Aquina. And I'm thinking, man, truer words have never been spoken, because that's Dwayne Aquina will say it's some form of that to his guys all the time. But yeah, Jalen Gilbo pick 6 would be my my pick if I'm gonna go with one.
I'll go for that. Juan Garza, why is Oregon the favorite for Benjamin? When was the last time they developed a DB that went to the league? They've had plenty of DBs in the league. I can't tell you specifically why. Young man's from Southern California. Oregon is a top 5, top 10 school in the country right now. They've been hot for a number of years. A regional school. You know, I couldn't tell you exactly why, though. You have any insight on that, exactly why Benjamin would be favoring Oregon?
I mean, they've been on him. They've been on him longer than anybody. I mean, you got to remember, I mentioned Dwayne Aquina a second ago. The Texas recruitment of Devon Benjamin really didn't, kick into high gear until Dwayne Aquina made the move to Texas. That's really when things, because, there were, Donovan Webb. There were some other names we were hearing as far as the safeties go. And then when Coach Aquina got the job, the two guys that really kind of rose up after he came back were Devon Benjamin and Yaheem Riley. And, watching Yaheem Riley get walked out of his spring visit by Coach Aquina, and they're talking, I'm like, that one's should get done here pretty quick. And Yaheem Riley's been a part of the class for a long time. But Oregon, Christian Gonzalez, Javon Holland, Oregon's produced enough NFL defensive backs that have been high draft picks. And James Richards is right.
Also has Jet Washington. That was another priority for Texas at one point.
Dan Lanning can recruit. I mean, look, that's the thing. When you get in these recruiting battles, you're going against Kirby Smart and Dabo Swinney and all these coaches. I mean, there's a reason why every time a job opens, why Dan Lanning's name pops up. He's a hell of a football coach, and he can recruit.
Clint Barrows, I've seen some lists that have Texas Tech's D line as a top 10 in the country. Thoughts on this? Also, what players do you think Texas will win a national award for their position? Nagurski, et cetera. So Tech's defensive line may deserve to be in there if they have the actual depth. They got first team All Big 12 selection in Lee Hunter from Central Florida at defensive tackle. They got a first team Big 10 selection, I think. Or no, ACC selection in David Carter from Stanford.
David
Bailey. I'm sorry, David Carter. They picked up several, I think 4 altogether, starters from former schools on the defensive line. Plus, they returned all of the guys that they had that were any good this past year. So that's the reasoning for it. They went heavy on both the O-line and D-line in the portal. And so we'll see if that works. I would say that Anthony Hill, of all the position players at Texas, even more so than Arch, even though he's the odds-on Heisman favorite right now for whatever reason, I would say that Anthony Hill is the most likely positional award winner that Texas has for next year at linebacker, best linebacker of the year. What do you think, Jeff?
Because he's going to have really the one thing you should have, the two things you need to be in the awards discussion. He's going to have the preseason hype, and he'll have the production to back it up. So he'll be in the mix. And if this Texas defense is, again, as good as we think it's going to be, that I think it's going to be, that I think internally they think it's going to be, you got to pick somebody off the defense. I mean, that's how most of the time you end up with an award winner. I mean, that went a long way toward Tavondre Sweat winning the Outland Trophy. It's like, look, this is the best defense in the country. You got to award somebody off of it. So that's just kind of how these award deals work. I vote on a couple of these things, and that's typically how they work. If you've got to be one of the best players on one of the best defenses in the country to be in those awards, and I think Ant Hill's going to be. I'm with you, Bobby. I think he's should have the best odds to be an award winner on this team.
All right, we're going to end this with some levity here. Our producer Matt made this special for Joe Z. Joe Z asked us a question. Can you give me your thoughts on the Minnesota and Wisconsin rivalry? Matt, give Joe Z what you think of that right now, if you don't mind, buddy.
Well,
it's an OTF scandal. Breaking news. Jerry and Josie were spotted at a Coldplay concert. There we go, right there. I had to give you the play-by-play, bud. Had to give you the play-by-play. Just joking with you, Josie, obviously trying to have some good humor. I will say this. If a rivalry game at the major college level has 51,000 people in the stands, I don't know that that's a top 25 rivalry in sports or a 25 rivalry in college football.
Is that Paul Bunyan's axe? Is Minnesota, Wisconsin Paul Bunyan's axe? I know all those Big Ten rivalries have weird or cool.
It doesn't matter because here's the real deal. For both of those states, it's really the Vikings versus the Packers. Yeah. That's the rivalry. It's not the University of Wisconsin versus it's the Packers and the Vikings. They're pro states. That's the issue.
So it's kind of like how we look at like Tech and Baylor.
I think Tech and Baylor would have more than 51,000 people in the stands.
If it's at the Jones at night, yeah, they would.
I'm just putting it out there. All right, that's going to do it for tonight. Thank you all so much. We'll be back tomorrow morning with Coffee and Football. Thank you also to Matthew Hutchison. If you want the very latest on football, Longhorn football and Longhorn football recruiting, make sure you check us out online at ontexasfootball.com. Right now, we have a special going on, $20 off the annual subscription. If you use the promo code OTFOG and you're a first-time subscriber, again, use the promo code OTFOG. Jeff, anything you need to add before we get going? I know you're going to see Sark's keynote tomorrow morning at 9:30.
Yep, I'll be getting up early, heading down to San Antonio. Plenty of good stuff. CJ actually had caught up with Ray Gates, the head coach at North Crowley. Some good stuff on Jonathan Cunningham and John Turntine over at ontexasfootball.com. And as much content as we give you here, we got plenty of good stuff over on the website too.
Hey, I forgot this one more super chat came in. We want to get to it for you, Perry. Who are the vocal dog leaders on this team? Cole Hudson is one of them. I think that Anthony Hill is one of them. I think that Michael Taft is one of them. I mean, they went so far as to say that they have to put a muzzle on Michael Taft a little bit. Okay, yeah. So those are some of the guys I think, and I do think I would add this. I think Arch Manning's going to be one of those guys before it's all said and done. 100%. He has that kind of mentality. All right, I hope that helps, Perry. Also, tomorrow morning we will be 39 days away from Texas playing against Ohio State. Brian Robeson, your favorite number 39, will be joining us for a little bit tomorrow morning on Coffee and Football, so please stop by. All right, for Jeff Howe, Matt Hutchison, our producer, and thank you for all your super chats, as well as our sponsor, Dr. Brett Robin, over at Austin Orthopedic Institute. Y'all have a good night. Hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em.